Dan Lambert officially done with AEW, at least for now. Dan was on the Insight podcast with Chris Van Vleet this week, talking about his time in AEW and his wrestling fandom. The dude is a huge wrestling nerd, like a mark, like just like we are, just as marky as we are. Apparently, he's got a massive championship belt collection. I had heard that he was a belt collector. I didn't know to the extent. I think he said he's got like 100 belts. I think he said all ring used, not replicas. He said any territory you can think of, he's got at least one belt from that territory. I'm jealous. I'm a huge belt mark. I want some fucking belts. I want to be a belt collector. I wish I had that kind of money. I don't know where he gets all his money. Is it just from running American Top Team? Do you make that much money running a fight camp like that? I guess so. He talked a lot about that and the UFC and some of his fighters and that sort of thing, but it was really interesting hearing him talk about his wrestling fandom. And then he was asked by Chris Van Vleet, are you technically still with AEW? Because we have not seen him on TV in a little while. And this is what he had to say. Check out this clip.
I can't tell you how much fun I was having. It was like the coolest thing ever.
Are you still working with AEW?
Not now. About maybe 2 months ago, we finished up our feud with the Men of the Year and Scorpio Sky against Wardlow, and Sky dropped the belt to Wardlow. Sky was going to take a couple months off because he had a knee injury that needed to heal, and Paige was getting repackaged to doing what he's doing now with the firm and the work with MJF. So I just thought that was a good time that, seemed like it was winding down. I felt like I was getting stale. Even though the reactions were still good, it was still fun. But I just grabbed Tony after that show and said, "Yeah, I think it ran its course. I don't want to go backwards or overstay my welcome. So I think that's gonna do it for me." And he was like, "Oh man, sure, whatever you want. If maybe you come up with a good idea and you come back in the future or something. Yeah, sure, whatever. Call me."
You could pop back up at any point, really.
I mean, hey, if Tony called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, I got a good idea. Do you want to do it?" And it was a good idea, I'd say, "Sure, why not?"
It's good to see that Dan was able to realize that his storyline was kind of running its course at that point in AEW. He had massive heat by the fans for a long time. He was sort of the surrogate for Jim Cornette in a lot of ways, right? Everything Cornette was saying on his show were the kind of things that Lambert was saying on TV. And according to Lambert, he feels a lot of those things. He's an old school wrestling fan, late 70s, early 80s, same era that Cornette was a fan of. He grew up on a lot of that territory stuff. And that's what's real to him, damn it. Not all this flippy floppy stuff that we got from these kids did today. So a lot of that, he admitted the stuff that he was saying was kind of real. But he's still obviously a giant fan, still loves the business, still overjoyed to be involved. He talked about his match with Chris Jericho or being involved in that team match or whatever on pay-per-view. And just talking about like he always dreamed of being able to be a wrestler, like he said, who doesn't want to be a wrestler? And to be able to wrestle with Chris Jericho on national or on pay-per-view even, that was a big treat for him. And just all the things involving his fandom. But he's right, his character ran its course on TV, and it was starting to go away heat. The heat that he was getting was starting to turn into, oh God, not this guy again. And he was smart enough to kind of see that and bring it up to Tony like, hey, I'm gonna mind if I step away for a little bit. Now he said he will come back if there's anything good, fresh, unique presented to him. Just what he was doing at that time ran its course. Plus he said Scorpio Sky, if you've been wondering where he's at, is out with he had like a surgery or something. So he had a little bit of work done and then probably going to be recovering for a while. So that's kind of why that whole American Top Team angle went away. And probably a good thing it did, because it definitely was running its course. But I like Dan Lambert. I like the Jim Cornette wannabe character, the surrogate for the Jim Cornette. There's nothing wrong with that character, because it's going to get good heat from the fans. But you want to use it sparingly or use it at the right times. And I'm sure he'll be back in wrestling. I'm sure of it. It's just finding that right thing that suits him, And when he does come back in, I'll be excited to see him. And hopefully he doesn't get to the point where it's kind of annoying again, right? Hey, thanks for checking out that clip. Don't forget to check out other clips here on the channel. And while you're there, throw a like, throw a subscribe, and don't forget to check out full episodes each and every Sunday of the Pro Wrestling Podcast.